Good morning, dear students. We are going to discuss parotid gland anatomy today. So, where exactly the parotid gland is situated? Para-otic, that is right in front of the ear. Whatever gland we have, that is parotid gland. So, it is in front, bounded by the posterior border of the body of the ramus. Then behind it is bounded by mastoid process and sternocleidomastoid muscle. Below we will have the digastric and stylohyoid muscles. Above, it is actually bounded by external acoustic meatus. This is the external acoustic meatus and temporomandibular joint. Medially, this is the process which you are finding, that is the styloid process. So parotid gland is the largest of the salivary glands, located subcutaneously below and in front of the external acoustic meatus. Occupies the deep hollow behind the ramus of the mandible. It is wedge-shaped when viewed externally. So this is the base which is above and this is apex which is behind the angle of the mandible. So this is the base as you can see and this is the apex of the gland. When you check the gross features of parotid gland, it weighs 25 grams. It looks like an inverted pyramid. 30% cases upper and lower poles are rounded. The surface is very much irregular and lobulated. So the parotid is actually a three-sided pyramid. Okay, so it is wedge shaped. So it has basically anterior border, posterior border, and on the medial aspect, we will have medial border. So between the anterior and medial border, we have anteromedial surface. Between the medial border and posterior border, we have the superficial surface. Okay, and the other surface which is between anterior and posterior border on medial side, you will have the posteromedial surface. So the gland is very much irregular, wedge-shaped in horizontal section. The base is in the lateral position and apex is against the pharyngeal wall. Okay, so this is base and this is apex towards the wall of pharynx. So it has three surfaces. The one which is below the skin, you call it as superficial surface, also called as lateral surface. And in front, we have the anteromedial surface and behind we have the posteromedial surface. So the three surfaces, the first one is this superficial surface, then we have the anteromedial surface, then posteromedial surface. So we have like certain lobes which are actually formed by the traversing of the facial nerve. Okay, so we have superficial lobe and then we have deep lobe. So there are certain capsules covering the gland. We have inner true capsule and outer false capsule. So inner true capsule is formed by the condensation of the fibrous stroma of the gland and outer false capsule is formed by splitting of investing layer of deep cervical fascia. The parotid gland has two capsules. This capsule is basically, if you remember deep cervical fascia, we have discussed like it splits to form the false capsule, which has superficial layer which goes and attaches to the zygomatic arch, deep layer which attaches to the tympanic plate. Okay, so this is the false capsule and the true capsule is actually formed by the condensation of the fibrous stroma of the gland itself. Isn't it? The portion of fascia extending from the styloid process to the angle of mandible, that is the thickening of the deep fascia, you call it as stylomandibular ligament, which actually separates the parotid gland from submandibular gland. The presenting parts are, it has, this is the apex, this is base, we have anterior border, we have posterior border, then on the medial aspect, we have medial border, surfaces are superficial surface, anteromedial and posteromedial surface. So this is a picture of parotid gland which shows us what are the various blood vessels and nerves which are related to that. Anterior border is also showing the parotid duct. Now, let us talk about the relations of this apex region, which is pointing downwards. It is related to cervical branch of facial nerve, related to retromandibular vein, posterior belly of digastric, and external carotid artery. Then, now coming to the base, base is related to superficial temporal vessels, auriculotemporal nerve, cartilaginous part of the external acoustic meatus, then temporal branch of facial nerve. Then superficially, that means when we remove the skin, so that is the lateral relation, we will see skin, superficial fascia, platysma, great auricular nerve and parotid lymph nodes. Then anteromedially, this is the anteromedial surface where we will see the stylomandibular ligament, then medial pterygoid, posterior border of the ramus of the mandible, then masseter, then terminal branches of facial nerve, temporomandibular joint and maxillary artery. Then the posteromedial surface is related to carotid sheath with its contents, that is internal carotid artery, then internal common carotid artery, internal jugular vein, vagus nerve, sympathetic chain. So styloid process, attached muscles will be styloglossus, stylohyoid and stylopharyngeus. We have facial nerve, then posterior belly of digastric, mastoid process, sternocleidomastoid muscle, and transverse process of atlas forming posteromedial relations. The facial nerve enters the gland by piercing the upper part of the surface. External carotid artery lodges in the groove in the lower part. Then the anterior border, it is related to zygomatic branch of facial nerve. The anterior border is related to zygomatic branch of facial nerve, transverse facial artery, buccal branch of facial nerve, accessory parotid gland, the parotid duct, and mandibular branch of facial nerve. The branching pattern of facial nerve is actually radiating like goose foot. You call it as pes anserinus. So it is facial nerve. We know it is coming out through stylomastoid foramen. It pierces the posteromedial surface of the parotid gland, lies superficial to the retromandibular vein and external carotid artery. Then it divides into temporofacial trunk and cervicofacial trunk. The temporofacial trunk gives rise to temporal branch and zygomatic branch. Cervicofacial trunk branches to buccal, marginal, mandibular and cervical branches. So this is the facial nerve and these are the two trunks which are named as temporofacial. This is temporofacial and this is cervicofacial trunks. After emerging from the stylomastoid foramen, the facial nerve enters the parotid gland where it branches at the pes anserinus. Okay, extracranially, the facial nerve branches, you will see posterior auricular, then the nerve going to digastric, stylohyoid nerve. This is posterior belly of digastric. Then 5 terminal branches, we have temporal branch, zygomatic branch, buccal, marginal mandibular and cervical. This picture I have shown you when we were doing the skull bone norma lateralis also. Corresponding to the names of bones, the branches, terminal branches of facial nerve have been named temporal, zygomatic, buccal, mandibular and cervical. Okay. So that is, now you can see the structures coursing within the parotid gland. We have auriculotemporal nerve, we have external carotid artery, we have retromandibular vein and this is completely facial nerve. Few lymph nodes also may be scattered within the substance of the gland. Now structures passing, see these are the pictures which are given in Chaurasia Vishram Singh. So you can see facial nerve is passing. You can see the formation of retromandibular vein. We can see the branches of external carotid artery. Okay. There are certain processes also which are projections from the parotid gland. If it is moving towards glenoid, like upwards, you call it as glenoidal process. Anteriorly, we have facial process, we have accessory process, we have pterygoid process, we also have carotid process. Okay, the parotid duct or Stenson's duct can be a 3 marks question. As such, parotid gland is an important essay question. So parotid duct is 2 inches long, which is coming from the anterior border from the facial process of the gland. It passes forwards over the lateral surface of masseter muscle, like about finger breadth below the zygomatic arch. It is accompanied by transverse facial vessels, upper zygomatic branches of facial nerve, lower zygomatic branches of facial nerve below. So you can see how it runs over the masseter. It turns around the anterior border of the masseter muscle, pierces the buccal pad of fat, buccopharyngeal fascia, buccinator muscle, buccal mucosa, opens into the vestibule of mouth, opposite the upper second molar tooth, like this. It opens inside the oral cavity. Parotid gland is purely serous gland and the secretions are rich in salivary amylase, that is taline enzyme, which helps in the digestion of starch, carbohydrate. You can see upper second molar tooth. Behind that, you are finding the opening of this parotid duct or the Stenson's duct. The oblique passage of the duct in the buccinator muscle acts as a valve-like mechanism and prevents inflation of duct during blowing. The duct can be rolled over the clenched masseter muscle. The duct is represented by middle one-third of the line joining extending. This is the tragus of the auricle to the point midway between the ala of nose and upper lip. The blood supply comes from external carotid artery, whatever branches we see inside, the superficial temporal artery, maxillary artery. Okay. Venous drainage, it drains into retromandibular vein. Lymphatic drainage goes into parotid group of lymph nodes and then into deep cervical group of lymph nodes. Nerve supply, parasympathetic is stimulating watery secretions and sympathetic stimulates mucus-rich thick secretion and it is also vasomotor. The parasympathetic nerve supply comes from inferior salivatory nucleus, tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve, tympanic plexus, lesser petrosal nerve via otic ganglion, auriculotemporal nerve supplying the parotid gland. Sensory supply comes from auriculotemporal. Autonomic is sympathetic through plexus around the arteries, external carotid artery. Okay. Then parasympathetic through otic ganglion, ninth cranial, that is tympanic nerve, tympanic plexus, lesser petrosal nerve, otic ganglion. We have a separate ganglion class where we will discuss everything. Okay. Now coming to the applied aspects of the gland. So infections of the parotid are very painful due to like parotid fascia is very much tightly attached to the parotid gland, the superficial lamina and the deep lamina forming the false capsule. It is very much tightly attached. Hence, like if there is any swelling like mumps type of infection, parotid gland cannot swell. But despite of that, it has to swell because of which the swellings become very much painful. The reverse bacterial infection may occur from mouth via the parotid duct. Okay. So parotid neoplasms, that means cancers are also quite common, especially if the people are taking this zarda, pan, gutka and all those things. Inflammation of parotid gland results in painful swelling because of tight capsule. I already told you. There is a condition called as freeze syndrome, a disorder characterized by recurrent episodes of localized facial flushing. That means the skin of the face become red, hot, and there may be intensive sweating in the area over parotid gland in response to gustatory stimuli. This is due to aberrant nerve regeneration after injury. A communication develops between auriculotemporal nerve and greater auricular nerve such that parasympathetic fibers migrate into cutaneous sympathetic nerves that supply sweat gland. Okay. So mumps is a viral infection which is caused due to paramyxovirus. The incubation period is usually 2 to 3 weeks. So there will be like swelling over the face in front of the ear, which is tender. So complications, it may lead to inflammation of testes and ovaries, pancreatitis and meningoencephalitis. Okay, the tumors you can see here, the parotid tumors, they may be like, if it is of short duration, you call it as benign, and if it is of long duration, you call it as malignant. Okay, so generally we see this as hard mass in parotid region. The skin may ulcerate. There may be fixation to adjacent structure. So examination of external auditory canal for tumor extension, regional lymph adenopathy, that is enlargement of lymph nodes. Blood or pus may be seen from Stensen's duct, bulging of lateral pharyngeal wall or soft palate like this. Okay, so surgery has to be done, and when we are undertaking parotidectomy, that is the removal of parotid gland, we should take care not to damage facial nerve, because we know facial nerve is the motor nerve of the face supplying the muscles of facial expression. And suppose if this nerve is damaged, person will not be able to do any facial expressions. Hence, very careful removal of parotid gland in the form of piecemeal has to be done. Okay, so parotid abscess is drained by small horizontal incision, again to avoid injury to the facial nerve. Fries syndrome develops after penetrating injury to the parotid gland, damaging auriculotemporal and great auricular nerve. Salivography is the radiological examination of salivary gland and ducts via installation of contrast media. We can go with other techniques like CT and MRI also. So we can check with salivography if there is any inflammation, tumors, fistulae, strictures or stones. Okay. So salivography, when you use any radioactive dye, we are able to visualize the ducts. Okay, main parotid duct. So it may be opacified. Sometimes there may be stones, blockage. Okay. So that is salolithiasis, is the formation of stone in the parotid duct. Thank you.